My name is Matt. I'm head of product design here at Redgate, and I'm going to tell you a story about the evolution of our design practices and the journey we've been on to mature and evolve those over the past 2 or 3 years. So, firstly, a bit about me. I head up the design team at Redgate. I work as part of our product division leadership team alongside peers in engineering, product, and delivery. I've been at Redgate for about 4.5 years. Prior to that, had about 13 years experience in the field of user experience and product design, working in a range of industries from government to education to gaming more recently and software development, obviously. So, for context, this is the maturity model we're using internally to illustrate our current journey, where we've come from and where we want to get to. So, for those not familiar, this is an adaptation of the design ladder from the Danish Design Centre. And our story really begins somewhere here between stages 1 and 2 of this model. So, between designer styling, where design is really only valued purely for the aesthetic outputs of design, to designer's process, where design is valued as an integral part of the team's development processes. And it's worth pointing out that for most, this is still a really great starting point. Redgate was in a position where it fundamentally valued design for its ability to craft simple and usable interfaces, and for many years, this was a key differentiator for us and our products. But in this talk, I'm going to describe our 2 to 3 year transition to where we find ourselves now in 2019, where our vision was to be more design-led as a company. So as part of this story, I'm going to describe how we transitioned over 3 distinct phases, or what I'm calling ages for the purpose of this talk, and to mark each of these as significant milestones in our design practices between 2016 and where we are now. So the first I'm calling designing for usability. The second I'm calling designing for insight. And the third I'm calling designing for impact. And that's kind of where we are now. I'll talk more about that shortly. So rewinding back right to the start, this is exactly the vision that we set out for the function back in 2016. In summary, we believed that design had a key role to play in informing and shaping strategy. And it was this statement that paved the way for change. It helped shape our strategy and some of the tactics that we'd explore along the way. And like any good strategy, we had to be asking ourselves, where did we want to be as a practice? Where are we now as a practice? And what would need to change to help us get there? So what does this mean for design to be strategic? Well, this quote from John sums this up quite well for me. It all boils down to design's ability to influence business decisions and how design could better contribute to the business's longer term success. So we have to realise that design is first and foremost a function of the business. It isn't a purely creative pursuit and cannot exist in a vacuum. And ultimately, our job as designers, therefore, is to deliver customer value, but in the pursuit of business value. So moving on to the first age that I'm going to talk about, designing for usability. What does that mean? So during this age, design is valued in terms of its ability to iterate and optimise around a given set of product features. Or this is how the organisation perceived the value of design and how we therefore responded to those demands. And what did this look like? So I'll start by briefly describing the model for the product teams and design back in 2016. So what did this look like? I'll start by describing the model for the product teams and design back in 2016. We're essentially operating in this decentralized model with designers allocated to product teams. But whilst design resource was notionally assigned or allocated, it was still seen as more of a service to the team. Product ownership and product management were embedded, providing leadership, and design was kind of operating in the wings to some extent alongside other then more specialist roles like technical author. And how is this characterized? Well, usability of our tools was recognized and well regarded as a key differentiator. So how is this characterized? Usability of our tools was recognized and well regarded as key differentiator. We coined the phrase ingeniously simple, which was seen as a competitive advantage. As such, designers who are highly skilled in interaction design and evaluative research methods focus the majority of their time on crafting simple, usable interfaces. Features were typically fed in by product management, and we were structured like a decentralized team, but still very much with this service mindset. The organization as well typically associated design with more of the visceral or aesthetic qualities and outputs they were familiar with. And it would quickly become table stakes in terms of how we would define ourselves and how we would compete with our competitors. Usability work was starting to become more commoditized. We knew there was more we could be doing as a practice, but we were operating largely downstream from product decisions. There was little or no scope to really influence the direction of our products. Research and design efforts were purely tactical and focused a lot of the time on servicing the more immediate needs of the teams. We're heavily focused on our technical smarts versus a really good, solid understanding of customers and their problems. So what did we do? Here's an overview of some of the tactics, which I'll talk individually about in a second. Firstly, we moved from old usability-based training to the adoption of design thinking. We rolled this out division-wide as part of a default training program for engineers, product managers, and designers. This introduced a mindset and approach to design being a more creative, collaborative, problem-solving process. Not necessarily a dark art anymore that was only practiced and understood by designers for designers. We encouraged everyone to be a designer, or at the very least to think like a designer. And with this, it brought about a renewed emphasis on empathy and discovery, highlighting the importance of taking the time to really understand, frame, and reframe customers' problems. At the time, we had a tendency to make assumptions and jump too quickly to overly complex technical solutions. It was unclear if we were spending the time solving the right and most valuable problems for our customers. So to help counter this thinking, we introduced the design framework. Largely, this was based on the Design Council's double diamond approach. We adopted it. At the time, we had a tendency to make assumptions and jump too quickly to overly complex technical solutions. It was unclear if we were spending time solving the right and most valuable problems for our customers. So to help counter this thinking, we introduced our design framework. It's based largely on the Design Council's double diamond approach, and we adopted with that a mantra of solving the right problems and then solving them right. This approach encouraged us to adopt and apply more divergent methods for research and design, necessary for us to discover and validate new customer problems, and necessary for us to explore a range of potential solutions. We also, around the time, introduced the first chapter of our design playbook. These were a set of scenario-based plays that stringed together a set of associated research and design methods. The desire was to operationalize our design practices by making them visible, accessible, and inclusive, to educate non-designers around the value of design and the importance of solving the right problems, to embed and integrate these into our product teams and their development practices. This marked a shift towards design becoming recognized as a team sport, where designers facilitated or coached teams through the design process. As part of reintroducing more problem space or discovery research, we quickly found that we were working with a lot of latent customer information and encountering internal biases. Painfully, some of this knowledge had also left the building and was never properly documented. So we went back to basics on understanding customers, their needs, and motivations. This led us to revisit and document some of our research foundations, including customer profiles and segments, customer personas, scenarios, and jobs to be done. With that goal in mind, we had to invest in increasing the skills, methods, and activities required to do better discovery work. As a result, we intentionally shifted our focus and the nature of our work, as well as that of the teams, from solution to problem space, avoiding a pure execution mindset and giving us the ability to push out ahead of the team. And with that, a renewed desire to improve our understanding of our customers and the reasons they purchase our products. So moving on, the second age I'll discuss is designing for insight. So during this age, the value of design is expressed in terms of design's ability to determine the core value set of a product through analysis of customers' needs. So this is a typical team model from around 2017. Designers were truly embedded in product teams, tracking to a ratio of around 1:6 designers to engineers, Most teams had a dedicated designer. We no longer had a concept of product owners, it became more of a distributed responsibility, and product management moved to more of a broader outwardly facing role. The technical lead and product manager were providing product leadership. So how is this characterized? Design has shifted from being something as a service to now being a core part of the team's development practices. It was truly operating in an embedded and decentralized model. We'd landed design as a team sport, as a collaborative problem-solving process, and there had been a significant increase in the team's research efforts, focusing on understanding the problem before jumping to technical solutions, or being handed a predetermined solution to said problem. We started to move more towards a dual-track research process where we're balancing more generative methods with our evaluative activities. But we were improving broader insights without a good way to frame and contextualize these opportunities. We're also lacking a way to feed these into our planning process and be part of the surrounding system within the organization. Product managers were moving to more of an outwardly facing role with a broader market purview. Teams and designers were lacking some strategic alignment as a result. Designers desired to be more strategic, but we didn't necessarily have the right tools and methods in place to support that. Design's perspective was still absent from many of our key product decisions. It was still unclear to the business that design could and should be playing a more strategic role. So here are some of the tactics that got us through the second age. So this represents our first attempt to pull together what we were calling a strategic toolkit. Our hope was that this would provide us with the ability to derive better insight and perform better analysis, providing us a core set of tools and methods by which we could evaluate our products and solutions and map those to the customer's needs. To understand what our customers' needs and wants were versus what we actually sell or market versus the software that we produce. This comprised of customer personas, so who are we trying to serve with our products and how do their attitudes and behaviours differ, jobs to be done, why do customers buy our products, what were their motivations, what jobs were they trying to get done at the time they decided to hire our products and solutions. The value proposition canvas, so what should our product do or offer to help address that specific set of needs? Furthermore, what should it do that's better than our competitors? And journey maps, so how well does our current offering serve these needs? And where do people experience pains or blockers throughout consuming these products and services? For those of you that aren't familiar, this is the value proposition canvas. The value proposition canvas is a great tool for bringing together the analysis in a single visual artifact. It helps visualize the intersection between your customer segment, the customer needs or jobs to be done, and your product or service. It also provides us with the ability to map specific pains to pain relievers or gains to gain creators, and allows us to perform a more detailed and thorough analysis of how well and to what degree we're serving our target customer. Furthermore, it helps us understand where we might have gaps in our offering that we should address. So by analysing at the proposition level, we've been able to explore different types of product opportunities. First, can we explore and validate new solutions for existing customer segments? Second, can we reposition and extend our existing solutions for additional or new customer segments? And third, can we address additional pains and gains to enhance our existing solutions for our existing customers? So armed with this toolkit, we next started to iterate on the shape and responsibilities of the design role. Here I'm using Dan Olson's Lean Product Pyramid to illustrate design taking more ownership of the product stack. So product design has become this bridge between customer needs and the product proposition, ultimately having more say or ability to influence what should and shouldn't go into the product. Their role becomes about defining the scope of the product versus layering the experience on top of the product. But this kind of analysis is neither directed nor actionable if the system around it does not respond accordingly. So we had to create a space in which we could feed new opportunities into the existing planning process. We introduced as part of this artifacts like our learning backlogs to ensure research was more intentional and directed. There was an impetus on product management and design to start working much more closely together and engage around these research activities. Being able to articulate the process provided us with a mechanism for bringing opportunities into the planning process. We created this virtuous loop of questions and hypotheses, validation, mapping to strategic intent, through to execution, and then the subsequent analysis, bringing the customer back into the strategic pitch. And more recently, we've introduced the concept of product trios. So this model sees a designer, product manager, and technical lead forming a leadership group for each of our core products or areas. It ensures that design has a strong voice in product decisions alongside its peers in engineering and product. And in this model, design champions desirability. So do customers want, need, or value the solution? We believe this model intrinsically fosters a sense of cross-functional collaboration. It brings about better balance of expertise and perspectives, encourages better alignment, and ultimately ensures we make the best product decisions on behalf of our customers. And as a result of these tactics, we were better positioned now more than ever to analyse and contextualise product opportunities. We were able to provide some clear answers to whether our current proposition addressed our customer needs, identify where we had gaps, and understand the degree to which those gaps existed, as well as a model for how these insights could now feed into our planning activities, and with that, the need to have a stronger voice in product decisions. So tracking forward to the third age, designer's impact, this represents where we currently are on our design journey. So during this age, we believe the value of design will be expressed in terms of its ability to inform and influence strategy through a combination of qualitative and quantitative insight. In this model that represents our current structure around our product teams, design formally becomes part of our product leadership groups, or trios. As we scaled the number of teams, we're still intentionally tracking to the one designer per team model and maintaining this ratio of 1 to 6 designers to engineers. Designers assume both a tactical and strategic aspect of their role. Product management is notionally assigned, working across product groups or larger areas. And we've introduced the concept of a solutions team, which is teams of teams that range across multiple products and capabilities. So how is this characterized? As mentioned, design is positioned now as a peer to product managers and technical leads. As such, it has an equally strong voice in decisions. But we're also encouraging designers to work upstream of the team, establishing a much better balance of now and what's coming next. We're spending an increasing amount of time on research and strategy, and the ability is there now to influence the product roadmap, to consult on product strategy, and they're jointly responsible for the team's objectives. But generally, we're not well versed in data analysis and the measurement of our work. It doesn't come as a default or standard part of the designer's toolkit. It's something we're having to work on. We're lacking some good definitions of product value and having a good understanding of what people have to do in our products to realize value. We don't have a very good picture yet of customers' emotional state at different parts or stages of the customer journey. And with that, we struggle to tap into an understanding of their perceived value at any point in time. So this limited ability to gather, analyze, and interpret data is something we're having to build on. And it's difficult to demonstrate the impact of design work without that. However, there are various things we're working on now to build on top of our skills, to build on top of the toolkit, to equip us to be able to move into this third age successfully. So more recently, we shifted towards an enterprise or accounts model with a focus on solutions for larger customers, as opposed to just thinking about smaller tools for small to medium-sized businesses. We're seeing design need to take a more holistic view across the customer's end-to-end experiences. And we need to understand the organizational challenges and goals, or their organizational proposition, and how our solutions might help them succeed. We need to understand how the needs of buyers or decision makers differ to those of the end users. They're effectively two sides of the same coin, and our desire is to serve and meet both sets of needs. But the key to this and securing these longer term relationships with these customers is our ability to measure their success. So looping back to our strategic toolkit, this is where we really see journey mapping as giving us the additional insight and analysis we need moving forwards to know whether customers are successfully onboarding, adopting, and engaging with our solutions. And this has required us to start to piece together data from multiple sources across a number of channels and different touch points. But it's quickly allowing us to start to see where customers are getting blocked or dropping off. For example, looking at a number of support tickets raised during the setup or onboarding phase of this journey. We believe this cross-channel analysis will eventually help us understand how we can reliably help more of our large customers get to success. Documenting these journeys is just a starting point. We can start to use the analysis of these journeys to identify customers' pathways or routes to value. What is the subset of features a particular segment might engage with to realize value? When do customers experience their aha moment, and how many of them actually experience it early on or at all? Furthermore, we can start to analyze the differences between the desired value state and the actual state. Then we can start to layer the telemetry on top of these interactions that would allow us to measure their progress. So in theory, with better definition and usage telemetry, we can start to identify and prioritize the biggest issues for our customers. We can do a better job of onboarding and nurturing and hopefully converting more of them and making sure they succeed. And we can even go as far as starting to predict or see when a customer might be starting to show signs they're lapsing. So another tactic we're looking at investing in this year is around data literacy. As I mentioned before, it's a bit of a blind spot for designers typically, and it's certainly a skill set we need to develop at Redgate. But with a view essentially to empowering and educating designers to both access and make better use of data, to ensure a design effort is directed towards work that will have the most value for our customers and the business. This will go a long way towards helping us understand what are our customers doing or not doing with our products, which includes things like usage behavior, product sentiment, and understanding more about customer segmentation, essentially helping us know where to start. Then it will help us think about what do we need to change or influence to drive a certain behavior. We can form hypotheses based on our prior insight. We can diverge and explore different ideas. And we can design and run experiments to help find the ideas or the best ideas to test first. And lastly, we can see if the change we made had the desired impact on the customer's behavior. So is this a good solution? Is it driving the right behavior? Are our measures of value going in the right direction? And this will help us to focus our efforts on that which is having the most impact. So as a desired outcome, because we're not there yet and are still very much on this part of our journey, we would like to get to the point where we can measure and identify if customers are getting the value they were promised and where to focus our design efforts to help more of those customers succeed. Also, to reasonably demonstrate the impact of our design work, to know when we're adding value or not, and to operate a more experimental or hypothesis-driven approach. So to loop back on the maturity model that I presented at the beginning of this talk, we can now zoom in to see how some of these tactics have formed a strategic roadmap for our design practices. It's fair to say we don't know what's around the corner, and as with any maturity model, this will continue to evolve in itself. But driving the maturity of practice should be viewed as an ongoing iterative design process. We should be regularly checking in to ask ourselves, where do we want to be? Where are we now? And what needs to change to get there? You'll continue to need to review and be prepared to iterate on the structure, skills, and practices of the team, as well as the conditions and constraints of the system in which design operates. So this visualizes the journey of Redgate, the journey we've been on so far, and how we went about rebranding and repositioning design in the business. So in summary, the 3 takeaways or key lessons I'll leave you with today are: ensure there is more intentional balance of tactical and strategic design work. Adopt the right tools and methods to better evaluate your products versus your customers' needs. And measure the customer's ability to realize product value and your ability to drive it. And lastly, I should call out that Redgate is an awesome place to work. We have a range of design roles open across all levels. So if you're interested in finding out more about any of our current roles, please do visit our careers page or contact me for more information.